Hello and welcome to the next edition of the HP Discover podcast series. I'm Dana Gardner, Principal Analyst at Inner Arbor Solutions, your host for this ongoing discussion of IT innovation and how it's making an impact on people's lives. In this first of a two-part series, Does Software Security Pay?, we will discuss how Heartland Payment Systems in Princeton, New Jersey has leveraged software assurance practices and HP Fortify to drive value within its IT organization and improve their overall business performance. Join us now as Ashwin Altekar, Director of Enterprise Risk Management at Heartland, shares his insights and knowledge with Amir Hartman, the founder and managing director at MainStay, a marketing and IT advisory services firm in San Mateo, California. Amir recently completed a software assurance return on investment study, and he will now share details from that study on how HP Fortify has impacted Heartland's IT organization and their developers. We'll learn how Heartland has improved its results in innovative ways across the organization, thanks to both security best practices and tools. So with that, please join me now in welcoming our moderator, Amir Hartman. Hello, Amir.
Morning, Dana. How are you?
I'm great.
Thanks for having us, and I'm really excited about the program today. We've got a two-part series, as you indicated, and the research that we did found some very interesting results from the companies that we interviewed. Really, in essence, we found sort of three main benefits to employing and institutionalizing a strong software security assurance program with its supporting tools. One was a sort of savings that organizations are seeing. Secondly, is a risk management benefit to the organization. And lastly, we actually saw some revenue protection benefits as well. So I'm pretty excited, really, to have Ashwin on the call today and really have Ashwin share with us his experiences in deploying Fortify solution and these practices within Heartland. So why don't we start, Ashwin, if you could, paint us a bit of a picture or background, a little bit about yourself, and then segue for us into the software security landscape at Heartland.
Sure. I am the Director of Enterprise Risk Management at Heartland Payment Systems, and I've been working in information security for over a decade, and have spent a large portion of my time performing application penetration tests and managing software assurance efforts. At Heartland, we take software security very seriously. We strive to be the trusted transaction provider, the trusted partner of a large number of merchants who depend on our payments and payroll services. And with application security being such a large vector for attack, we are very aware of the multiple controls necessary to keep our customers' data secure. And we lean quite heavily on Fortify to first understand and then improve our level of software assurance.
Excellent. So that's a good segue. I want to, if we could, let's maybe take people back a little bit, and if you could describe for us what the software security scenario was like at Heartland before institutionalizing some of these practices and before implementing and rolling out Fortify. What did things look like before? And then talk to us about why you went in a new direction.
Well, prior to Fortify or any automated tools, we relied on mostly manual inspection by developers using common security guidelines like OWASP, coding best practices, or assessments done by third parties. And really, as our enterprise grew, it became harder and harder to be confident in our application security posture with just manual inspection by development teams. And software assurance is very important to us, right? Not just finding vulnerabilities, but understanding what percentage still remains. And with manual efforts, there was just too much to do and not enough time. We liked the breadth of programming languages supported by Fortify, and we really like the direct integration to the IDE for common IDEs like Visual Studio and Eclipse. And so Fortify was just a natural fit to to the needs of the time.
Excellent. And I would imagine, to your point, with the space that Heartland plays in, obviously these issues are quite sensitive. And I think if you look at the marketplace and you're seeing just this sort of explosion of mobile devices and mechanisms by which consumers are transacting, it makes this issue even more front and center.
Absolutely. Our primary product or service is software. And when we are conducting these financial transactions, facilitating those transactions, it's done all through software. Fortify is definitely a key product that helps us, position ourselves as a secure company by understanding what issues we have in our software.
Excellent. Well, Ashwin, talk to us a little bit about the implementation itself, just some interesting facts. But then, if you could, kind of segue a little bit into the impact that you've seen it have on the organization. What are some of the benefits that you've been able to deliver to the organization and to its customers through institutionalizing these practices and tools?
Sure. So here at Heartland, we risk rank our numerous applications and have various requirements on what each development team has to do. One of our basic requirements is that all software applications be scanned using Fortify. And from the information security perspective, I think that has allowed us to really understand what it is that we're up against when we talk about software security assurance. So, large piece of our issues are trying to figure out what it is we don't know. And Fortify allows us to quantify our level of effort and to get the attention software security requires. And also, we've been able to show the successes of many teams that embrace Fortify. So they've been able to do more and learn more about software security and in much less time.
Yeah, it's a good point. In the research that we did, we found some similar results. We certainly found quite a number of organizations who were able to reduce the amount of time that developers were spending, identifying and remediating, and really focus their attention, because of the automated mechanism, focus their attention on developing new value add applications, and so that was something that we saw. So certainly it's sort of reallocating how much time they actually spent. Not that this stuff's not important, obviously it's essential, but if we've got a way to do this faster and then focus developers' attention on different areas that are more value add, that was a big win. I don't know if that's something similar that you're finding as well as developers are making it part of their DNA.
Yeah, we do absolutely find that. I think there was an old expression for spell check that if you spelled the word wrong 7 times, but you saw the right spelling each of the 7 times, then finally you would get it right on the 8th time. Hopefully, our developers are a bit more quick in learning about security best practices than that, but Fortify allows us to do, very similar type of reinforcement when it comes to very specific software security issues, that they're able to see what the right ways to do it through Fortify and then learn from that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good point. Let's shift gears a little bit here, Ashwin, if we could. One of the things that we noticed, and this was a little bit unexpected, right? When we went into the study and trying to figure out how companies are benefiting from effective software security practices, we were going in with certain assumptions. One of the assumptions that some of these automated tools and practices are going to obviously save time, save money on the developer side. Certainly findings, for example, of if I can address and remediate things early up in the development cycle, that's going to save a tremendous amount of resources and money versus down the road, right, post-production. But there were a couple of areas actually that we found in terms of benefits that companies were experiencing that were a little bit unexpected and some innovative uses. Can you share with us a little bit from your perspective and from Heartland's experience, what were some of the more innovative uses of these practices and Fortify related to software assurance?
Well, I think first for us, we consider providing broad warnings about software security issues in general. Fortify allows us to really target our training efforts to the issues we see at the project level. And we could discuss those specific topics with the development teams when we interact with them, and can even point out, the specific remediation tips within Fortify, and that's very helpful. And something else we're looking to roll out right now is how we can visualize the different development teams and how they compare to each other in terms of software security. So we're looking to see if we can incentivize secure development even before a line of code has been written, right? So through some minor gamification, leveraging Fortify statistics between the various development teams here at Heartland, we hope to better train developers and in turn improve the overall development productivity. Another interesting use that we have is here at Heartland, from time to time, we acquire various companies or seek to be partners with them. And then during the evaluation phase, oftentimes we will use Fortify to determine the amount of work that we may need to do to get the acquired software into a production-ready state. So that has been helpful in us sometimes negotiating, the acquisition price or making sure we factor that in and do that level of due diligence ahead of time. And I would say another common scenario for us is also we are able to understand the quality of any third-party developers that we contract with and allow and force strict standards on what secure development means. Traditionally, we enforce it through legal contracts that say the third party has to follow secure coding guidelines based on best practices. But with the implementation of Fortify, we can say, you have to have a clean Fortify scan prior to the finalization of a certain amount of work. And then I would say lastly, what our secure SDLC process has done, which includes Fortify, is signal to our partners, especially our partners that value security, that we are very serious about software security, that we take a lot of the right steps, if not all the right steps, to doing whatever we can to understand our vulnerabilities within software and to eliminate them.
I love those examples. I mean, I think the sort of healthy competition, between the developers is just a great idea. I don't know, perhaps it's a little bit overly melodramatic, but it's, we hear a lot that, this stuff, when you start articulating and dictating to developers certain things that they should do, the reaction is not always positive. These are folks who really think they're developing great code, and they are quite independent, and so thrusting upon them just new ways of doing things sometimes can be met with some resistance. But I think that's notion of kind of healthy competition and gamification between groups is a great idea. And your point about leveraging these capabilities and these tools through the acquisition process is something that we heard when we did this study 3 years ago. That was something that one or two companies were leveraging. And I think your example is great. I think any company who is acquisitive, and it's not just necessarily companies. It could be the acquisitions of certain technology and software assets, websites, for example. Those things are ripe for leveraging these kinds of practices and tools. So that's great examples. Let's move on to a little bit more insight on how this has differentiated or been used to differentiate Heartland. Obviously, the space that you play in, security is at a premium, and being able to ensure to your customers that you've got a terrific approach. Can you talk to us a little bit about that in terms of does this capability help you differentiate in the marketplace?
Well, as I'm sure you're aware, security is more important than ever in our customers' minds. So when it comes to transactional security, we've had a few high-profile pieces about payment security and breaches lately. So that has really raised awareness, and that's great, especially since many of Heartland's products and services focus on security. And confidence in the quality and security of our software products is absolutely a differentiator. It allows our customers to focus on their business without having to worry about technical issues in their day-to-day operations. So, just having trust in a brand, having trust in a company and its products and services is very important for our customers. And our secure SDLC allows us to articulate why it is they should have that confidence. When we tell them that we have secure development training, we have static source code analysis, we use dynamic tools, we have manual inspection, we have third-party verification. These are all things that, especially our larger customers, they appreciate. They understand that this is what you need to do in today's day and age to have secure products. And, we are able to elaborate on the multitude of things that we do. And many of our partners are very thrilled to partner with us because of that.
Yeah, that's well said. Ashwin, let's go back a little bit. Think a little bit for me around what it took to institutionalize some of these practices. I mean, you mentioned a little bit earlier, the use of gamification and healthy competition amongst development groups. But institutionalizing effective software assurance practices is easier said than done. Can you help us understand what were some of those key factors throughout this journey, right? And it is a journey. It's not this sort of one quick little implementation and then you're off and running. It's definitely a journey from the customers we've talked to. Help us understand what are some of those key success factors in institutionalizing such tools and practices across an organization.
Yeah, I think journey is a great word for it. There have been so many times where I thought, great, we're finally at a place where we need to be, and then one of the variables changes, and then you're having to do all this work, and then just when you think nothing else can come up, you're having to do some more to make it all work right. I think the first thing that you can do is be very clear about what development teams need to do for internal compliance when it comes to software assurance. And that could mean setting specific metrics or making sure they have well-defined processes. But whatever is right for your organization, you have to repeat that message often. I used to think that I was just constantly talking about software security and everyone was tired of it. But one of the key lessons I learned was it's impossible for you to repeat that message too often. So be very clear about what it is you want them to do and say it often to anyone that will listen. The second, I would say, is make it easy. Make it very simple for various development teams to integrate into your software assurance processes. So understand the challenges that individual teams face in implementing security during the development lifecycle. As one team's problem, if they're doing an agile development process versus waterfall, it could be very different depending on those scenarios. So make sure you understand their challenges, whether it's process, whether it's time, whether it's the right tools, and make sure you are able to solve for those. And thankfully for us, Fortify, has been very easy to integrate into the IDE. We've been able to automate with it, so it's fit a number of different scenarios for us. And then finally, I would say is quantify and measure progress over time. So it's very easy to kind of sit back and say, oh, these guys, they implement Fortify, or we have manual tests for them, or they take all the training. But it's great to quantify that so that really you can provide feedback to senior management and talk about many of the success stories, the amount of effort that it takes to have a secure application is very high. And if you can provide quantitative information and share those success stories everywhere throughout the organization, you're able to really reward everyone's efforts. So in summary, I think the key success factors are just to be clear about the message, make it easy for people to integrate, and then measure how well everyone's doing.
That's a great summary, and I think that the last one, especially to your point, again, I think it sounds easy. It's not that trivial of an activity. It's being able to communicate to leadership as well as the troops, right? But to leadership, especially in a set of measures or metrics that resonate with them, is not an easy task, right? There's a lot of activities that get done as far as software security and software assurance practices go, and but translating that into a language that a senior business leader is going to understand is not an easy task. But very good point. So let's a couple of last questions for you, and one is maybe if you could take a look back for us with this journey and when it started and the successes you've had. Is there anything you would do a little differently?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think one of the things I already mentioned was, be more repetitive about the importance of software security and what needs to be done. There's always someone who hasn't heard that message, and it's important for them to hear it as well. I would say the other thing is, I think it's okay to be a bit more realistic in what an organization can do. So, just because, there's a lot of security work ahead of you and there's a lot to get done doesn't mean that the organization is going to respond as quickly as you'd like for them. So it's important to create goals, realistic goals, in timeframes that that the organization can meet versus trying to get everything done all at once. So that changes from organization to organization on what that means, but really, I think what I've learned is set realistic goals rather than ideal goals.
Yeah, that's a good point. The goal setting and expectations and constant communication and reinforcing of those goals is definitely critical. Well, going forward, then, what's next for Heartland and specifically in this space? Can you paint us a little bit of a picture for what's next on the horizon from a SSA standpoint? Let's say the next 12 months or so.
Sure. Yeah, I'm actually really excited for the next year here at Heartland. We're at a place where we have many of the right tools, we have many of the right controls at the right time during the software development lifecycle. My next goal really is how we could combine all our different tools and get even more value out of them running in sync with each other. So trying to, add 1 and 1 to get 3 versus just the 2 that we have today. Going forward, I'd really like to continue to automate and leverage the individual tools, get them working together so that we get richer information about our security posture, but 2, we get more actionable and precise information on what various development teams need to do, or maybe what the security team needs to do to better support software assurance efforts.
Excellent. Ashwin, I really appreciate you sharing this with us. A lot of great insights. Obviously, as you pointed out, this is very much a journey. It's not something that's a week or month or multi-month effort. It's constantly changing and morphing. But again, your insights were very, very valuable and appreciative. So again, back to you, Dana, on this front.
Well, thanks, Amir. You've all been listening to the first in a two-part sponsored series, Does Software Security Pay?, examining how Heartland Payment Systems has leveraged software assurance best practices and HP Fortify tools to drive value within its IT organization and improve their overall business performance. And we've seen how a recent software assurance return on investment study from MainStay demonstrates how HP Fortify has measurably positively impacted Heartland's IT organization and their developers. So please join me now in thanking our moderator, Amir Hartman, founder and managing director at MainStay. Thanks so much, Amir.
You got it, Dan. Appreciate being here.
And also a big thank you to our special guest, Ashwin Altekar. He's the Director of Enterprise Risk Management at Heartland Payment Systems. Thank you so much, Ashwin.
Thank you.
I'm Dana Gardner, Principal Analyst at Inter Arbor Solutions, your host for this ongoing sponsored discussion of IT innovation and how it's making an impact on people's lives. Thanks again for listening, and come back next time.